Hi, friends. Welcome to the She's Rooted Life podcast. I am Talia, and I am so excited because today is not only our first episode of the new year, happy 2026, but it is also episode 10. And I have been saying this for a while now that less than 10%, essentially over 90% of people who start podcasts, do not make it past episode 10 or even to episode 10. So we are here and we have many episodes to come that are already prepared and ready to go. And I'm excited to know that in this episode, we have a surprise that we get to release and reveal to you all that we officially have the She's Rooted Life website. And so if you go to shesrootedlife.com, you can take a look around. Essentially every episode that has already been recorded and that will be recorded will also have a complimentary blog post. I know that some people like reading. And so if you find an episode that lands with you well and you want to share it with someone as a blog, you can do that. You can also just read it for yourself. And like a past couple episodes back in 2025, we had some She's Rooted Life resources. And so those resources are also on the website. And in the future, it will only go up from here. Baby steps, Rome was not built in a day, and She's Rooted Life will also not be built in a day. So we're taking baby steps and little bits of obedience as the Lord reveals things to me and shows me things that I'm like, hey, I think I actually want to do this thing. And it's in alignment with what She's Rooted Life is doing. Then that's what we're going to do. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm also just incredibly grateful for all of your guys' support, the messages that I get of encouragement to keep going, and that there have been episodes that you've been greatly encouraged by. They mean the world to me. And so also, if you are a frequent listener to the podcast, please leave a comment or a review wherever you're listening to the podcast or watching the podcast. Please make sure that you're subscribing or following. All of that helps. And then also, please share the episodes if you are liking them. And in today's episode, I'm joined by Monica Mouer. And Monica has such incredible work, you guys. She is the founder and clinical director of the Center for Family Transformation. She is both a counselor and a consultant. She has a Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education from Kansas State University and an MS in Counseling Education from Western Illinois University. She is also a licensed mental health counselor supervisor in the state of North Carolina. After several years of teaching in private and public schools, as well as serving with her husband in youth ministry around the country, Monica saw the need for families and individuals to be helped on a deeper level. Becoming a counselor has been very fulfilling for her, especially offering families and individuals the motivation and tools they need to be successful in life. Over the years, her specialties have broadened to include teens, adults, families, and couples. Monica is trained in a wide range of therapy modalities, including Gottman marriage therapy, restoration therapy, DBT, DNMS, and psychodrama, and a certified sex addiction therapist. She has a passion to see individuals live to their fullest potential with peace of mind, purpose, and action and joy for everyday living. Monica is originally from Kansas, but lived in California, Oklahoma, and Illinois before landing in North Carolina in 2006. She has been married to Will for over 2 decades, and they have 3 children. She is licensed to practice in both North and South Carolina. And on a personal note, I actually found out about Monica and Center for Family Transformation before we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. So I always tell people that before we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, people always ask, why Charlotte? Well, I used to have a family friend who lived out here. And when I would come out here, I was like, this reminds me a little bit of the Southern charm from Tennessee, as well as the diversity and the largeness from Southern California. So when we were thinking about leaving Tennessee, what places would we consider moving to? And I said Colorado, because I have extended family there. And I said, or Charlotte. And my husband said Texas or Charlotte. And I said, well, I don't want to move to Texas. And he's like, well, I don't want to move to Colorado. So we landed on trying out Charlotte. We've been renting here for a little bit, and we actually are very, very likely to settle roots down here. We've thoroughly enjoyed it. And also, when we were making the move, we found out that Center for Family Transformation is actually located in Charlotte, or in the greater Charlotte area. And so right away, I'd been wanting to work with a therapist who was life model informed. And Monica is not only life model informed, but she shares within the episode so many resources that she has created, not just for clients, but also for therapists and others who serve in the church. And so there's so much that she has done. The Lord continues to multiply her ministry and her reach. And in this episode titled How Attachment Shapes Our Faith and Our Relationships, we dive in officially to the different attachment patterns, as well as how attachment theory plays into our relationship with the Lord. Once I learned attachment theory, I have never been able to read the Bible the same. Essentially, in the Garden of Eden, when the Lord created us, He created us from relationship. So, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, we are created by a relational God who is desiring and had created us for relationship with Him and with our people and with other humans. And so, in so many ways, there's no way that we can see the gospel without seeing just how beautiful our attachment to the Lord is. And it's in this attachment with Him and with our people that we actually grow into becoming the truest version of ourselves. So I hope that this episode encourages you. I hope that this is an episode that we can come back to often in terms of the different attachment patterns, because it's definitely a starting point. There is so much more to talk about, and I'm excited to have this episode here. So welcome to episode 10. Welcome to the She's Rooted Life podcast, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, my friends. I have Monica here with me today. Monica, I actually didn't tell you this, but you were one of the deciding factors of us moving to Charlotte, North Carolina,
Oh
a
my
little over a
goodness.
year and a half. One of the deciding factors. When I found out about your work at Center for Family Transformation, I was like, hey, I could actually work with someone within her center. So, anyhow,
Yes.
you were one of the driving factors. So, thank you for being here. I'm really honored to have you.
Oh, Talia, that was so kind of you to say, and I'm so glad to be with you. It's wonderful
Yeah.
to, I remember one of our first conversations, just hearing your story and just hearing how you love the life model. So I'm excited for this dialogue.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited. Just starting there, could you share about Center for Family Transformation, like what inspired your work that you're doing there, and really just the depth of the work of the emotional, relational, and spiritual healing that you all are bringing?
Oh, yes, of course. I love talking about our practice, so I'll try to keep it short, but I sometimes go on and on, I think. So I've been in the Charlotte area for, oh man, I think 20 years now, almost 20
Wow.
years, if not 20. And so my husband and I moved here for him to be a pastor at a church. And I started my private practice counseling out of that church, just out of the one of the rooms. My boys were really young back then. And then within a few years, I ended up starting a larger practice with a small group of people I met there at the church. And so we went along in that private practice for quite some time,
Mm.
and I learned about the life model. And so when I learned about the life model, it was a huge experience for me. I was so excited, and I started teaching my clients and my fellow coworkers, my fellow therapists in our practice. And that practice ended up disbanding for no reason except for it wasn't a good business model. So it didn't work out. We loved each other and we loved the work we were doing. But at that point, I was so entrenched in using the life model in my practice and wanting to practice it as well with fellow therapists that I decided and felt called to start a life model practice. And so the Center
Mm-hmm.
for Family Transformation is just that. We're specialized in a lot of different areas. All of the 8 clinicians, well, the 7 and myself, we have a lot of different specialties, but we are all trained in the life model. The life model undergirds our practice. So as I am thinking of a new clinician to bring on our team, I review the model with them and say, hey, if this sounds like something you want to be a part of, this is what we're doing. And so the idea is that we want to bring something really special to our community, in that we want to have we have true belonging with each other,
Mm-hmm.
the therapists
Mm-hmm.
on the team. We have
That's
community with one
amazing.
another, and we're all practicing that same level of community in our own personal lives. And then we want to bring that to our clients in terms of an understanding of what it looks like to be in secure attachment with God and with others. So whether it's family members or friends or whatever. So our heart is to bring that to our clients, whether it's work with individuals, couples, families. When we started the center, it was really about teens, young adults, and their families, right? Because
Mm.
my husband and I were youth pastors for a couple of decades, very passionate about that work with teens being preventative. So that was the heart of it. And it's turned into, I mean, our youngest client might be 3 and our oldest is somewhere in their 80s. So we see people of
Wow.
all. We have group therapy and a lot of marriage counseling and family counseling. And we're looking for just bringing Jesus into the room and using the life model to, well, obviously the biblically rooted life model into the way that we practice professional psychotherapy.
That's so powerful. There's so much good work that you're doing. And you do also have the institute, right? That you were talking about before. Did you
Yes,
mention that?
exactly. I haven't mentioned it yet,
Mhm.
but birthed out of the private practice, we wanted to do something else for therapists at large to learn the life model. So I think it's maybe even 4 years ago, I petitioned Life Model Works and said, hey, like, I want to spend my time, talent, and treasure furthering this model because it's been so powerful for me. Here's an
Mhm.
idea. And so the idea I had was, just asking for permission or a blessing from them to write a continuing education curriculum for therapists
That's
based on the
mhm.
life model. And so we're doing it. We're in the throes of it. We're NBCC approved. So our fellow licensed professionals can get credentialed credit hours for the trainings that we're providing. We are an on-demand training curriculum. So we have the first 3 of 7 modules done. In
Mm.
terms of, there's about 15, well, that will be here come the end of 2025, there'll be more like about 20 to 22 credit hours available. And our
Wow.
goal would be to have about 40 hours available for clinicians in the next the next 2 years by the end of 2027. So yes, the Institute is a training program. Right now it's on demand. We just held our first live training this last couple weeks ago. Actually, it was just with our small group and a couple others from around the country. But we hope to be offering some live trainings soon as well.
I always love hearing the impact that people like you are making. And so just know that you are really multiplying that fruit that the Lord has put in you and the healing, and such a beautiful thing. You're such a gift to this world. We need you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Talia. That's very kind, and I will receive your appreciation.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it is life-changing though, because before I actually get into there, I want to ask where you're licensed to practice. So if those who are listening are like, "Hey, can we
yes,
work with you?" Where are you guys
yes.
licensed to practice?
It's a very good question. At this point, we're mainly licensed in North Carolina. There's 3 of us on our team who are also telehealth licensed in South Carolina. Um,
Okay.
there's supposed to be something called the Interstate Compact that's coming out soon, but we've been hearing that since 2020 and we still haven't seen it come to fruition. So maybe at some point there will be availability across state lines, at least for a majority of the states. A lot of times, though, interestingly enough, um, licensed professionals can see people in different countries when that country does not have a licensure board themselves. So the telehealth guidelines have taught us that. So sometimes we can even see people in different countries, but state to state is really tricky. And it
Yeah.
doesn't even matter if you're from that state, even if you're from North Carolina and you're visiting in Texas, we're, not supposed to see clients across state lines. So we're hoping in 2026 we'll have an interstate compact that will free that up a bit. But
Yeah.
something exciting is we have started a database of therapists who are getting trained in
Nice.
this curriculum. And we're also, we're not limited to just licensed professionals. We can also train pastoral ministers and coaches as well in this model.
I love that. I'm going to link all of that in my show notes too, Monica, just to be able to share that. So be sure to check out in the show notes if you're listening. So, one of the core things about Life Model is the attachment to the Lord and to our people, and why secure attachment matters. So, before we dive into that, can you share with us, like, what is attachment theory, how it began, how does that look like for us now?
Sure. So I think it was sometime after World War II or during, if my memory is serving me right, that John Bowlby did a study on children who had lost their parents and discovered that yes, there is attachment patterns that happen between parents and children, specifically starting with the mother and the baby, that are very important to the development of the human psyche. And that when that attachment doesn't happen in healthy ways consistently, it creates insecure attachment patterns that are very problematic throughout childhood and then into adult relationships as well, and then generationally can endure in causing complicated issues as parents become grandparents and so on and so on.
Yeah. Can you walk us through what those insecure patterns are and what that looks like?
Sure. So with secure attachment, it doesn't have to be that a parent is 100% there for a child. It's more that 50% of the time or more that a parent is emotionally available for the child, can synchronize or attune to what that child
Mhm.
needs. And if that doesn't happen 50% of the time or more, one of three other attachment styles will develop. The first one I'll mention is anxious attachment, which is oftentimes called disorganized as well. I'm sorry, distracted, not disorganized. So
Mhm.
anxious or distracted attachment. And what that means is the parent has been present for the child sometimes, and then other times not. So the child doesn't know what to expect. So there's a development of anxiety when it comes to connection or attachment, because the attachment light is always on, looking for connection. Is mommy
Mhm.
going to be here? Is daddy going to be here? Are they going to be available today? So sometimes when I skin my knee, mommy says, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Come, let me kiss it. Let me make it better. Let me put a band-aid on this." Other times, mommy isn't present. And so I'm always wanting mommy to be present. So I'm going to her. And sometimes she
Mhm.
is, and sometimes she isn't, which leaves me a sense of her being unreliable. I don't know what I'm going to
Mhm.
get with her. So I'm going to try to keep my attachment light on as often as possible, just in case, which comes across very needy,
Mhm.
and needing that attachment and always looking for that attachment.
Mhm.
Then there is the avoidant attachment, which is sometimes called dismissive as well. So,
Mhm.
avoidant or dismissive attachment is when you've learned my parent isn't there for me and isn't going to be there for me. So, it happens never, right? The parent is rarely, if ever, emotionally present for the child. So the child learns to shut down their need for attachment, just to turn off the attachment light. And usually there's some kind of a pseudo joy involved with that, meaning maybe they're connecting with technology or with food or
Mm.
something else that can kind of stimulate a pseudo connection, not a true loving, joyful connection. So avoidant attachment is when you are emotionally kind of numb and not feeling a full range of emotion. An interesting fact about that is people who have avoidant attachment oftentimes think they're really normal and everybody else is just a little crazy. And the secure people even, well, what's wrong with you that you feel so much? You need to stop feeling. Or the anxious people they think are really, really messed up, and then forget about it if you're disorganized or ambivalent. Like, oh my goodness, these people belong in the insane asylum because they're numb, right? And the only real emotion an avoidant will feel is anger, because it all builds up and then there's some explosions that happen.
Yeah.
So that's avoidant. And then the last but not least is the disorganized or ambivalent attachment, where the parent was actually a source of tenderness and terror. So the child's wired to be scared while they're also desiring attachment. So you can see those patterns prevail in adulthood when someone may marry somebody who abuses them, right? Like, I want to attach to you, but you also are a source of terror for me, but it's a normalized pattern in my life. So I have a hard time getting out of it. So babies who have this attachment pattern, they say, will actually crawl in circles because they want to connect, but they also are terrified. Like the accelerator and the brake are on simultaneously.
I heard your interview with Jeff Holsclaw on the Landscapes of the Soul. I'm like almost done with that book, and the way that he goes through each attachment pattern, I love that he does it in a way where he's like, you've probably been hurt by someone with another attachment pattern. So my hope is that this builds within you like a compassion and a love and a tenderness to other people's weakness. And it really did that for me. It was very helpful. So
it's a great book. Yeah, Sid and Jeff did a great job on that book. I love it. In fact, I was just pulled up one of the diagrams at a session this afternoon and reviewed it with a woman and said, take this home, show your husband. This is what it seems to be happening for you guys, just in terms of understanding the intimacy and independence concept that they brought up. So yeah, great book if you haven't read it. For anybody listening who has read it, and I'm glad you are checking it out.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Can we talk about that? The independency and independent, or the intimacy and independence, and like how important that is for us.
Yes.
I think he said it's like swimming with both your hands and your feet, and you need both of them for secure attachment.
Right, exactly. Because if we are not independent, we become codependent, right? And we're too needy, right? Then we fall in the anxious category. But if we're too independent and we're not connecting in healthy intimacy, right, then we become avoidant. And so it's really just a way to describe the anxious and avoidant cycles that we get into when we're not blended in terms of our ability to autonomize, to live like individuated and still interdependent and connecting with other humans, specifically those that we're bonded to. And so the idea is to live both independent and intimate.
Why do you think it is that different attachments bring out different attachment patterns in us? Like, it is very possible for us to be secure in one relationship and then another relationship maybe have more of those avoidant tendencies.
So my thought is, we usually have a primary attachment style, right? Based on what we had with mom and dad. And then we end up finding a spouse who has a similar attachment style to one or the other parent. And that's because our psyche is looking to kind of work that out and heal from it.
Wow.
But I think depending on what someone else is experiencing, our nervous systems want to balance a system, right? So when we think about Dan Siegel's concept from interpersonal neurobiology, that our connection human to human is an energy system. It's it's a system. And so if you come into a relationship with me and you have a lot of anxiety or a lot of avoidance, my nervous system's automatically going to want to balance that.
Mm.
And so that's why we have to be really aware, right? And from a life model lens, we want to really be able to have capacity for even the most difficult relationships so that we can show up consistently to try to balance the system like Jesus did in a gentle protector kind of way.
Can you talk about what the world would look like if we all did that? Because I don't think that's what we're doing right now. And like that's also why people like you are so
I
important and what you're
know.
sharing. So what do we do?
I
Because some
know.
of us might be hearing this and go like, "Oh my goodness."
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes, I know. Because I think even in the church, there's such conversation about, self-protection and boundaries and and I'm not saying those are bad things at all,
Mhm.
but I think we do this thing where I always say it's like we we say, well, this person is too much for me, or they're extra grace required, or I shouldn't
Yeah.
have to have relationship with this person. They trigger me, this kind of
Mhm.
thing. And so what happens is we don't go into what Life Model calls the transformation zone, which is a place
Mm.
of putting ourselves in relationship and not just in benevolent, like, let me do a nice thing for you relationship, but true life sharing life type of relationships with people who are different than us, who do trigger us, in order that we go into that connection, not blaming them for that, but realizing it's our own weaknesses that cause us to show up with these certain types of patterns. And if we can, in those scenarios, stay connected in attachment relationship with Jesus and really be repentant in our own hearts in terms of how we are showing up in inadequate ways with people, not loving like Christ does, then there's this opportunity we have to truly be transformed or sanctified, right? So that we become more like
Mhm.
Christ. We can become gentle protectors to people because his life and his love is flowing through us to others. And this is actually the way that a human matures. We mature because
Right.
we're in stress, we're in difficulty, and we see,
Mm.
hey, I can't do this. So I give it over to Christ and his love, his way of being, the fruit of his spirit, it comes into the way that I show up with people. I'm
Mhm.
transformed into his image, into his likeness. And so it's a very exciting concept for me. And I think for
Yeah.
all of us as humans, because this can work. And that's what's
Mhm.
exciting.
Right. And it's really how Jesus designed us to be. Like relationships, healthy relationships require us to mature and to heal and to grow. And to, I always think of Jesus on the cross and how that is the
Hmm.
love that we are called to have, is that love of laying ourselves down for our brothers and our sisters. It's beautiful.
Yes, so
Yeah.
true. It's like greater love has no man than this, that he would lay down his life for his friends, right? So that we are
Amen.
living like these sacrificial lives. I've just been meditating this last week on the scriptures about the commandment, right? To love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, and mind and strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself. Like, what does it really mean? These are the greatest commandments, and God says it's more important to do this than it is to offer sacrifices to me. This is more
Right.
important to me that you do these things. And how do we do this? How do we love others except because the love of Christ is flowing out of us to them? And how do we do that except that we have secure attachment with Jesus?
Wow. That is so powerful, which actually is what I was going to talk about. I wanted to ask about Dr. Jim Wilder and just the whole attachment theory, not just between humans, but between us and the Lord, and what
Mhm.
that looks like. And do those attachment patterns that we have amongst humans, does that happen with us and the Lord too?
Oh, yes. Oh, good. Yeah. So, Dr. Jim Wilder, I'm sure most people who are listening have heard of him, but maybe some haven't. He is the main neurotheologian with Life Model Works. And so he was a part of the the counseling practice back in the 80s that developed the life model in its inception. And he's along with a lot of other authors, continued to write curriculum that expands these concepts and helps us understand them more and more. And so one of the concepts that's really fleshed out a lot in the book Renovated, that Dr. Wilder wrote, it's about attachment to God. That, not only is it like Bowlby discovered in the 1900s that we need attachment with a primary caregiver, specifically mother and then father. But then Sue Johnson did a lot of work in terms of helping us understand that we attach to our spouses or our partners, our romantic partners in life, in a similar pattern. And then Dr. Wilder goes even deeper to say, hey, we actually have this ability to attach to God. And how wonderful that we can do this, because God offers more perfect love than a parent or a spouse could. And so we have this opportunity to connect with this perfect being who loves us unconditionally and who models unconditional love, so that we can find a way to love ourselves and in turn give that love back to him and others.
And what is this love? Like, I know we talk about agape all the time, but there's that other hesed, the steadfast love. And I've never have heard that this is actually like an attachment love. Can you talk about that?
Okay, yes. So hesed love, or I think the way it's pronounced is chesed in the original language. But that hesed love, Wilder and colleagues will talk about it meaning sticky love that never gives up, the kind of love that God had and has for the people of Israel, even in the Old Testament, when they would prostitute themselves to idols and worship other gods besides him. He said, I will never give up. I love you. I love you with a steadfast, consistent, and unconditional love. And so that hesed love is something that if we receive that, we can see ourselves then through this lens of grace, that I am accepted because I am loved, not based on what I do or even how mature I am or what I don't do. It's just because I exist, which is a really hard concept for us as humans. We keep wanting to like prove that we're worthy, that there's something really good about us that makes us worth God's love or the love of others. But Hesed love says you're worth it just because you exist.
And if we could have that love at the depth of our soul and to be able to really be rooted in that, that's why this podcast is named She's Rooted Life. Also, to be able to see others through that point of view, which I do believe that our attachment to the Lord, our secure attachment to the Lord, really is the thing that gives us the ability and the strength to be able to then see other people just because you exist. I love you, like just because you exist, and to have that kind of love.
Amen. Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I love that name.
Yeah.
She's rooted. She's rooted in love.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about, I know that there are some people listening again, as we're talking about different as we're talking about different patterns. One thing that I've always heard is that insecure attachment patterns or that's not personality. So these are things that you're not stuck with. And I think we're talking a lot about that healing. What does it look like, especially you as a professional, when you have seen someone move from insecure attachment patterns to secure attachment patterns? What have been the things that you have seen, like, okay, this person's really growing in that?
Yes. Oh, that's a good question. So when we heal from our insecure attachment, the science calls it earning secure attachment, which is kind of an interesting way to say it, like you're performing or something. But earning secure attachment means you've moved from one of the insecure attachment patterns to secure. And I think one of the things I see most is ability to love God and others more, right? To stay rooted in yourself, right? Grounded in your core self, showing
Mm-hmm.
up like the person who you are designed to be, maturing, growing, and then being
Mm-hmm.
able to truly empathize and connect to others in their pain rather than just self-preservating, right?
Wow.
If we're just
That's a mouth. That's a
self-preserving,
mouthful. Yes.
that's right. We're self-preserving, we're taking care of ourselves. That's what where that insecure patterns come in. And personality is an interesting thing too, because
Mhm.
personality is birthed out of pain as well, right? So we
Wow.
think, oh, we're just
Okay.
born in this way, but reality is the things that happen to us cause fear-based responses that then form personality. So that's a whole nother conversation, but
Yeah.
it's developed in a similar type of way. And I'm sure attachment patterns play into the way the personality shows up as well.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely is that's a whole nother podcast episode, which maybe you can come back for to talk about personality and fear-based versus living from the heart that Jesus gave us. That's so good. Because it is true, like when we are living from those attachment wounds, it's like what they call survival patterns, right? Like this was actually really helpful at one point in your life to be able to get your needs met. And now
Mhm.
it's actually not helpful anymore.
Yes, exactly,
Or
exactly.
do you
So,
actually think it ever was helpful? Do you think ever was helpful for us in those patterns?
oh, for sure. I mean, we call it coping. Like you said, it's
Hmm.
survival. And that's with the developmental trauma work. It's very important to help someone recognize, help us all recognize that those patterns, those coping behaviors that were developed back then are not bad in and of themselves. They were survival techniques. And so what we do is we say to the younger part, thank you for helping me survive. And now you get to retire. You get to, be off the hook. You don't have to do life for me anymore. I've
Mm,
figured out a different way. But thank you very much. Because what happens if we don't say it that way, we shame ourselves for figuring out how to survive and the things that we did or said or behaviors we had. And when we do that self shaming, it's more of a toxic shame. And toxic shame doesn't integrate.
hmm.
Right. Only
Right.
healthy shame integrates. And healthy shame says, hey, you did your best, but there's a
Hmm.
different way now. So thank you for your service and
I
you
love that.
can retire.
Hmm. That is so beautiful. I love that so much. So, thank you so much, Monica. I have loved this conversation. For the listeners, I'm going to link a lot of the things that we covered in the show notes. That way, you can have resources to come back to. And this really is just like an introduction to attachment patterns and secure
Yeah.
attachment with the Lord and with our people. Thank you, Monica.
Oh, Talia, it's been great. And if there's anyone who is a helping professional who wants to learn more, we just covered this in our filming of Module 3. So it will be out at the end of 2025.
Incredible. Thank you, Monica. Bye bye.
Bye bye.